Hey everybody, we're going to talk about behavior tips that teachers use every day, but that you can apply to your religious education launch classes. So let's begin. We're going to be talking about tip number 5, to make the whole class lessons meet student needs. So one of the first things that we're going to talk about is no round robin reading. And round robin reading means, so I have Matt read paragraph 1, and I have Billy read paragraph 2, and I have Tommy read paragraph 3. And although this is a fantastic method in schools to get children to practice their reading out loud, in this particular situation, we are not in an academic setting, and our purpose is not to help them with academic reading. It especially is not preferable because we have some students who have learning disabilities, and we don't want to highlight that in a religious education class. So although that is a fantastic tip for academic settings, we're going to say that the better tip would be to do choral reading, which means everybody reading at the same time. The teacher is just reading, or what's called dropout reading. So for dropout reading, for example, I'm going to use the title up here and talk about how I would say dropout reading. So tip 5, make whole class lessons meet student needs. If I was having a child read that with everybody else, with the class, let's say they didn't know how to pronounce the word student. So we all read together, we all say tip number 5, make whole class lessons meet, and he doesn't know this word, so he stops reading. We all say student, and then he comes back in on this word, which he knows, needs. So dropout reading means a child would stop reading at the word that they don't know. They would listen for the rest of the class to say that word, and then they would come back in on a word that they would know. So again, the reason that we're going to say no round robin reading is for a couple of reasons. Number 1, we're not in an academic setting. Number 2, we don't want to highlight anybody who has a disability or difficulty academically with reading. And number 3, honestly, it takes a ton of time. And when that's happening, other students tend to fidget or misbehave because they don't want to wait and listen to somebody reading something super slowly. So if someone's not a fluent reader, it kind of drops everybody else out. Also, we want to get through the reading quickly and have more interactive discussion and explanation time than just reading time. So for example, if you ever gone to a conference and somebody is just reading off the PowerPoint to you word for word for word, you tend to zone out and get really bored. You're like, I could do this on my own. This is horribly boring. No, thank you. But if you go to a conference and somebody has some bullet points and they're more getting into discussion and topic and being a lot more animated, you pay attention a lot more. So we want to do the same for our students. We want to get through the reading quickly, and then we want to digest that reading through explanation and discussion, and through a little bit animated, talking instead of just like, get through the reading, which can be really monotone and boring for kids. In addition, whenever you're having your lessons, try to add as many visuals as you possibly can. So bring in pictures, or add pictures from your reading, or add posters or anything that you can write on the board to help the students to remember. Hand movements are fantastic. So if we're learning about David and Goliath, and maybe we're reading about when David throws the stone and it hits him in the face, we can all pretend like we're throwing a stone. So you would say, and David throws the stone. Everybody grab your stone and throw it. And it gets them more into the reading and more interactive. You could add songs to any of your reading or your explanations or your lessons. You guys could act it out. So after you've done the reading as a class quickly, you could assign some roles to react out the situation. So if we're talking about the Annunciation, then we'll say, okay, we've read the reading, let's discuss it, you've discussed it, and let's act out the scene. So you're going to be Mary, Andrea, and then I'm going to have Tommy, you are going to be the angel, and you can act out the scene just really quickly. If you have any videos for kids, those are also fantastic. Always make sure that you have a downtime activity ready for kids, because any downtime equals misbehavior time. So for example, if you're getting out books or passing them out or getting something ready on the board, or somebody's practicing a part that they're about to rehearse and everybody's just waiting, that's a huge time for misbehavior. So during this time, make sure that you have like a picture for them to color, or vocabulary cards that they could practice, or give them a discussion that they should discuss with a partner near them. But downtime equals misbehavior. So always plan for any time to have something for them to do and ready to go on their desk. And don't forget to have your students take a break. So if you're transitioning from one activity to the next, have your kids stretch or change locations or deep breathe or do something to break up the monotony in the day. Because a long day of learning and then adding some extra learning to it is very difficult for your kids to sustain attention. And just like if you've been at a very long conference, you also want a little bit of a break too. So I hope tip number 5, making whole class lessons meet student needs, was helpful to you, and thank you for listening.